Hey, friends. Hello. Let's see what we got going on. Come on in if you are joining me live. Looks like I'm having some errors on social media again. Hey, friends, I'm so sorry. There's everything looks good on social media, and then all of a sudden it doesn't. And it won't let me change it. If you can hear me, then go ahead and just share something in the chat so that I know that you are hearing me or seeing me if you could. I'm so sorry. This was supposed to all be taken care of, and it looks like it's not. Hold tight, friends. Just hang on 1 second. I'm having an error with the platform that I'm using. So I'm just checking real quick because it looks like it's not coming up on any of the Facebook pages. So I'm just going to go and check real quick and see if that actually is what's happening. Yep, it looks like it is not showing up there. Hang on 1 minute, friends. I appreciate you all being here. And unfortunately, there's no other way to get this working. So I'm going to just ignore it. See if any of my team is in here. Janice, will you go on to Facebook, or maybe ask Chris to go on Facebook on my personal page and my business page and just share the link to YouTube Live so people can come and join me here? Because I'm not sure why it isn't working, but that would be helpful. I'm not going to mess with it. All right, guys, we're going to get started. So welcome everyone to SOLtalk. This is the live version. So you guys get the version where things get screwed up sometimes. And that is sucky. It's just kind of sucky. That's just how it works. And everything seems to be getting screwed up here today, because that's just how it's working. I'm not sure why this is showing now. Hang on 1 sec. What the heck, friends? So frustrating when things don't work, isn't it? None of those are correct. I might have to go and come back, you guys, because that should not be on. I should be here. Oh, okay. Let's see if we can make this work. You guys, thanks for your patience. I don't know. This app does not seem to be working the way that it's supposed to work. So we are going to have to check into some of that. It's frustrating. Anyway, shall we get started? Let's go ahead and get started, guys. We should be good now. All right, guys. So this gets me flustered because everything looks good once you get started and once you hit record, and then it just kind of all goes to crap. So before I start, one more time, will you guys tell me, can you see me on the screen now and it looks right and everything? If you're seeing like that little bubble anymore, or if you're just seeing me, can you tell me so I can get started? And again, thanks for your patience. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure we're good. Because, shit happens sometimes. This is going to be a great topic, by the way. I really think it's going to be a great topic, but I just want to make sure everything is working right. You guys can see me on the screen. You don't see me in the little bubble circle. You don't see any weird other focus point. Okay, great. Thanks. All right, let's just take a breath for a minute because systems are not working the way they're supposed to. That's super irritating. All right. Shall I get ready now? All right, friends. So I've spent over 40 years communicating with people in the afterlife on the other side who are not here any longer, depending on your perspective of even how you say that. And what I've recognized over all these years is that it just doesn't happen that they want to focus their attention on things that we in this human realm have a tendency to worry about. They don't focus on the things like worrying about if things are clean or not, or if they are impressed by so-and-so, or if there's an extra 10 pounds, or if they are focused on like this bad thing happening or this good thing happening. They don't talk about all these details of all the things that we have a tendency to put so much of our energy on. What they talk about is they talk about people. They talk about energy. They talk about love. They talk about memories and moments and experiences. I think they have greater clarity and higher frequency. So they talk about the things that actually matter. The thing that you're worrying about today, right now, just think about this one thing that you're worried about today, right now. In 10 years, do you think you're going to be worried about it? On your deathbed, do you think you're going to be worried about it? When you transition this body? Probably not. And so today we're going to talk about the things that I've learned about living through those that have transitioned. As a psychic medium, I think that makes a little bit of a difference. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we dive in, what I'd love for you to share in the comments is if there is someone that is in the spirit world that you have, I don't use this term, but I know a lot of people do, that you've lost, that's transitioned, that's left their body, that taught you about living. And let's acknowledge them today. Let's dive into that. So let's acknowledge those people that taught you something about living that are no longer here in spirit. Sound good? All right, let's get started, friends. So self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk, shine today. All right, friends, welcome to Soul Talk, where spirit meets real life. I'm Sunny Dawn Johnston, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, author, and founder of the School of Light. And this is where we talk about the real stuff, the human stuff, the things that are really actually affecting our journey, the the stuff that happens between our spirit and our divinity and our humanity, and kind of where that meets in the middle. And today we're going to talk about something that has really shaped my life over the years, and that is what the dead have taught me about living. And I've been thinking about this a lot because, as many of you know, if you've been part of my community or been listening to the podcast over the last several weeks, I've gone through a close transition in my own life of a close friend of mine. I actually had 2 clients pass away over the last 3 weeks, and this is normal. This is what happens, right? We leave this life in a variety of different ways. Some we feel are too young, some we feel are right on time, some we feel like shouldn't be here as long as they were. And I think that when we're living in this realm, we have a tendency to think that we have unlimited time. We at least live like we have unlimited time. So we think about the circumstance or the situations of the people, and like, we'll call them later. We're going to take that trip next year. Or maybe I'll offer forgiveness after I'm over my pain. Or we start the thing, the business, the new habits, whatever it is, when I feel ready. We tell each other, how we feel about each other when it's better timing. We'll have a baby when we get this done. We'll buy a house when we get this done. Just like we put our life off so often because other things are happening and it's not ideal, whatever ideal is, right? Have you ever done that? I think most of us do. And then life has a way of reminding us that time is not promised. Time doesn't even exist in the spirit world, but there is no amount of time that's promised. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm just saying that for me, death actually becomes one of the greatest teachers about life and about living. Because when you spend, decades, I think, connecting with people that have already left their bodies, you start to notice what actually matters to those on the other side and how they communicate with us that are here. And you notice what doesn't matter. And I think that in this human realm, the things that we think matter don't generally matter, not in the big picture of things. So we spend so much energy. Like, think about it for a minute right now. And of course, this is a live group. So when it's live, obviously there's interaction that you can do. But if you're watching this on the replay, you're watching this on YouTube, then I would love for you to comment, what are the things that you spend energy thinking about? So maybe it's other people's opinions, maybe it's how you look, maybe it's your worthiness, maybe it's trying to get everything lined up so that it looks all perfect, or that you have the perfect plan. Maybe it's comparing yourself to someone, or holding a grudge. And there's a tendency to worry about things that never happen, and to wait until all the circumstances, conditions are perfect. And here's the thing: how much of your life are you spending on the things that ultimately, really, if we're going to scan out a little bit in the big picture of things, just don't actually matter? And I don't want to say that in a place that, like, I mean that your responsibilities in life don't matter. But what I mean is that what are you putting your attention on? What are you giving your life force energy to? Because whatever you're putting your attention on is creating more life towards it. So time, we're focusing on time. That is life force. We're focusing on energy. That is life force. And you only have so much of it. And actually from the spirit realm, we don't measure life in amounts of time, like linear time. We measure it in the experience. And so we have a certain amount of experiences that we need until we depart this physical planet. And in those physical experiences, we never know when the linear time is up. We don't know when that's going to be. And so I think about, some of the people that have been in my life that have transitioned this world, whether that is, and I'm thinking of like a collective of them, students and clients, friends, family members. And I think one of the things that has come across over and over and over again, and I really try to live my life this way, and I certainly get off track as well, get redirected in ways that don't actually matter as much as maybe what I'm putting attention on at the time. And what so much of their energy is like, get out there and live, go do the things. Quit talking about it, quit watching everybody else do it. Social media has created a situation where people can sit on their couch and just watch everybody else live for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day. And it isn't that that's wrong or bad. Sometimes that can be inspiring if you're doing it. But if you're just watching other people live, watching other people cook great meals, watching other people get strong and healthy, watching other people build successful businesses, but not putting your attention on creating it for yourself, then we aren't really living to the capacity that we could. And while we are here, we have the ability to attract, to manifest, to create. We are creators. And our loved ones in spirit, when they depart and we have such sadness and grief around their transition, what the message has been over and over and over again is get out there and live for me. If you can't live for yourself because I'm no longer here, then at least put the energy into living for me, in honor of me. And, I think you all know that one of the beliefs I have deeply is that love is the energy that continues. The love never ends. I wrote a book 12 years ago called The Love Never Ends, and Messages from the Other Side. And it is literally about the fact that the love doesn't end. I've seen it, experienced it as a medium. I watched it happen so much when I was doing my hospice work, 2 decades plus ago. And that energy comes through in people's relationships and in the way that those people then show up from the spirit world in their physical world. And the relationships, that's what matters. The relationships, the shared experiences, and the loved ones in spirit come through as a medium. They come through with how much they loved that person, how much that person mattered to them. They share incredible memories or bring impressions to me so that I can see what the experiences were. And sometimes we think it's a big fancy wedding, or it was the huge trip to wherever. And sometimes that is where the energy and the messages and the joy and the passion and all the fun was, because they carved out time for that. But sometimes it was also sitting at the kitchen table having a cup of coffee. Sometimes it was dancing to one of their favorite songs with that person. Sometimes it was a story that was shared, or a memory that they had of something that was said that was funny. And sometimes it was like the joke that nobody else got, right? And so what I've learned from that is that the love is what ultimately matters when everything else falls away, when the body falls away, when the health falls away, when the access to that person in the way that you've always accessed them changes, I say, not falls away, because it doesn't. It just changes form. And so what I notice is then oftentimes we hold ourselves back from sharing that love while we're here in this physical realm. And we hold ourselves back from sharing it for a lot of different reasons: hurt, um, past pain, uh, current situations that call us into shutting down or disconnecting, wounds, certainly, anger, resentment, all kinds of things. But what if that's part of the purpose in living, is to express that love for ourselves and outward to other people, and to say it and to show it and to receive it and to acknowledge it, and to honor it. And I think so often as a medium, one of the things that I hear from a lot of people when their loved ones transition is regret. Um, they they'll say things like, I felt like I should call them, or I knew that I needed to say this thing to them, or I really meant to apologize before da da da, or I really wanted to get to that place that we were planning to go, and I wanted to let him know that um, that I so appreciated the way that person changed my life. But then people don't share that. And I don't think that they don't share that because they don't care. I think it's because they think they'll have another opportunity. There'll be another holiday. There'll be another wedding. There'll be another random Wednesday. There'll be another birthday. There'll be another dinner out. And so we just push it off because we push it off, right? There'll be another opportunity. And in a lot of times, for a lot of people, that's true, right? That is true. There was another opportunity, and there is another opportunity until there isn't. Until there isn't. And so I want you to just take a moment right now and think about, is anyone coming to your mind when I said those things? Is there anybody that comes to mind that you're like, oh, yeah, I need to reach out to that person? I've been thinking about that too. And I'd love for you to share that in the chat and in the comments. Is there somebody that popped into your mind and into your heart, into your memory? Did something show up that's like, oh yeah, that rings true? Or maybe you just felt it. If somebody came to mind, put that in the comments. Maybe just put a heart in the comments. You don't need to tell me the story. Story doesn't matter. It's just, did you have an awareness that there is somebody that's coming to mind that maybe you want to make a commitment to yourself to take some action, or to do something with that that little nudge that you got? And maybe this shows up as a way to just share with somebody that you care about, hey, you matter to me. So I would love to hear that. For those of you that are live, tell me just what pops up, what pops in for you when you listen to that little segment. And as we are talking about that, what kind of shows up for me is forgiveness. forgiveness can be super hard, right? It can be super hard as a human because our ego is involved. And we want to be right, and we want to make sure that we're not being taken advantage of, and all those things. But forgiveness looks very different here than it does in the spirit world. The old arguments, the pain, the resentment, the family fights, the family disagreements, the things that were said 15, 20, 30 years ago, the things that coulda, shoulda, woulda, done differently, the things that were not said. So sometimes it's things that were said, sometimes it's things that were not said. And when I observe this from the spirit world with forgiveness, it doesn't mean that we pretend that something didn't happen. And it doesn't actually even mean that you need to reconcile together, like that you need to come together or allow somebody back into your life that isn't healthy for you. But you see, here in this physical world, you carrying the anger or the resentment or the pain or the wound costs you life force energy, no matter what you want to convince yourself of otherwise. No matter what you want to convince yourself of otherwise, you're carrying that energy, that life force energy that you then lose. So instead of thinking of, does that person deserve my forgiveness? Maybe the way to think about it is, do I deserve forgiveness? Do I want to spend my energy, this precious life force energy, carrying this? And so if there's something that you're carrying that you don't actually want to bring forward, then you could choose to let it go. You can choose to forgive. You see, in the spirit world, once they transition from this life, they go through their life review, and they recognize the areas that they imparted pain and all the love and all the joy. And so there's like this expansion and this growth, and that's part of our journey, is over and over again, this expansion and growth, and that's how we learn. And from what the spirit world has shown me is that when we transition to the other side, and we go through that life review, and we walk through the depth of love that life has for us, and see the bigger, broader perspective of what we were learning, what we were meant to learn, what we did learn, what we could have learned had we not been so stuck in our pain and stuck in our ego, it transmutes it. There is no need to hold on to it any longer. And so I think if we could remember that here on the human level, it doesn't mean that everybody that's in your life needs to stay in your life forever. People come and go for a variety of different reasons, and sometimes those people need to leave your life. But can they leave your life, or can you let them go without anger and without pain, without judgment, without criticism, without fault, and more of be in a place of, thanks for teaching me, and thanks for allowing me to be a student, and maybe you taught them. Thank you for allowing me to be a teacher. I appreciate all that I learned, and allow it to just be. For those of you that don't know, I don't have a relationship with my dad, and it's coming up on, actually next month will be 20 years. And I chose to not have a relationship with him. I chose to end that relationship because it wasn't healthy in a lot of different ways, and I couldn't maintain and hold my energy around him in the way that it was. And what I originally was trying to do in the years before I actually could end the relationship was I was trying to get him to see my perspective. And I was doing it out of place of pain and anger and woundedness and hurt and resentment and all the things. And then something shifted in me, which is its own podcast, that helped me recognize that I didn't need him to see any of that. And that really, I wasn't actually angry. I had moments of sadness and grief, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I actually wasn't angry any longer. I wasn't actually willing to give him that energy. I wasn't willing to spend my life force energy on anger anymore. And it shifted to love. It shifted to me walking away because of the love I had for him and because of the love I had for myself, not because of the anger. And that changed the whole dynamic. Then I could actually hold that boundary from a place of love, and it didn't hurt. And I didn't feel guilt, and I didn't feel grief any longer. I felt appreciation. I felt acceptance. I felt understanding. I felt like I get it. He was a great teacher for me, and I was a great teacher for him, and I'm grateful for that. That's what I felt was gratitude. I felt gratitude and appreciation. And so when we think about, the interactions we have with spirit, and we think about the big things that they're going to be a part of, a birth or a wedding or big celebrations or big milestones or things like that. And yes, they absolutely are a part of that. But what I really want you to get is that more of it is that they're a part of your day-to-day life. Just the small, not extraordinary moments. And they're showing you signs, and they're coming through in memories that they are triggering in you. They're sending you the memory. You think you're thinking the memory. They're sending you the memory so that you remember the connection that they have to you. And those sacred moments are there. They're available, and they're available for all of us. And so often we just don't have the awareness because our energy is so scattered. Our energy is so scattered. And so when I think about what death has taught me, one of the greatest things that death has taught me, and I've said this in over the years in different ways, is death to me is the great equalizer. It is it's the energy that and the experience that all of us will go through. Every single one of us. And it doesn't matter how much energy you have. It doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter the kind of house you live in. It doesn't matter the kind of car you drive. It doesn't matter how many kids you have. There is one thing that we all have in common. Well, probably two. And that is we will be born and we will die. Our time here is limited. This round, okay, if you believe in reincarnation, this round, it is limited. And we measure it by time, but it's not actually by time, it's actually by experience. But see, I think there's a gift in knowing that. And what I often do is I will suggest to somebody, like, imagine if you had 250 years to live and you just knew you had 250 years to live. What do you think you would put off? And how long would you put it off? Like, well, I'm only 55. I got 250 years left. So I'll write the book in like 60 years. I'll go on that vacation to Antarctica that I've been thinking about going on, I'll take that maybe in about 75 years. I'll tell that person that I have this big crush on how I feel maybe in about 30 years. Maybe I'll be ready then. I'll start my business once I feel like it, once I feel ready. We all know that doesn't happen, right? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's that I'll get out of the relationship or out of the job, or I'll leave that circumstance, in maybe 15, 20 years. And my question then is, when do you actually start living? If we had 250 years, there would always be so much more time. But we don't. We don't have 250 years. And as much as we might not like thinking about it, the limitation of time is part of what gives our lives meaning. It's what creates action. It's what makes us more decisive. It's what calls us into living in a more intentional way. And so death actually creates, for a lot of people, tell me if this is true for you, it creates more urgency. I think especially if you have had somebody that has transitioned recently, it creates more urgency, but not, sometimes this is true, but most of the time, not from a place of panic. It's not that it's creating more panic or more fear. It's creating more urgency. Why? Well, shit, I don't have 250 years. If my sister could pass away at 40, if my child could die at 5, if my mother could die at 50, then I want to look at that, right? But the fear that shows up is like, oh my God, I'm going to die, so I better hurry up. That's more of a panic energy. Awareness instead is saying, I'm alive now. I don't have 250 years. What do I want to do with my aliveness? What do I want to do with my aliveness? So death calls us into action. I'd be mindful of which action it's calling you into. Is it coming from fear, or is it coming from awareness? But what death starts to ask of us is, what are you waiting for? What are you putting off? What are you holding on to? What dream do you keep just pushing a little further away and a little further away? What are you spending your life force energy thinking about and doing? Because right now it feels like there's an endless supply, but that's not true. There is an endless supply, but it's not while you're physically living. Energy, there's an endless supply. And so one of those greatest gifts that I think death gives those of us that are here alive is perspective. It gives us perspective. Because when you start to really understand your time is limited, not from a fear-based place, just from an awareness, from a recognition, then some of the shit you're focused on, you obsess about, isn't so important. The argument that you have been thinking about and just piss you off all the time, is it as important as you've been giving it attention? What somebody thinks about you, if people approve of your choices or your decisions, how you look, if you look perfect or not, kind of starts to become more awareness of like, who cares? You have a life to live for you, for your expression. what you desire, what you want, not for everyone else. And although even as a psychic medium, you guys, I'll have people that'll ask me, when is so-and-so going to die? How old am I going to be? And here's the thing. We don't know how much time we have because spirit doesn't measure things in time. So I don't want to be like projecting fear onto you, but if you need a little bit of a wake-up call to start to get to living, then you might have 5 years. You might have 50. But what we know for sure is you have today. That's what we know for sure. And what are you doing with this precious day and this precious life that you have? What are you doing with the time that you have? So I don't think the question anymore is, how much time do I have? It's, what am I doing with the time that I have? What am I doing with the gift of energy that I have? And I think being in this realm of psychic medium and working with so many people, not only as a hospice volunteer, so being with many people when they transitioned out of this life, being with many friends and family members when they've transitioned out of this life, and then having had a lot of those experiences younger, and then having a very close one just recently, it's kind of reactivated that part of me that is reminding myself, as why I'm sharing it with all of you, is I've known death pretty intimately. And I think it's one of the reasons why I have a tendency for people have a perspective of me that I am risky, that I take risks, that I try different things, that I take chances. And I do. And it's true. I do have a tendency to be risky. I do have a tendency to go, you know what, I'm going on this place. I want to go on this place. Do you want to go with me? Right? I love to travel. I love to experience life. I want more living while I'm here. And sharing with people that you care about them, and that they don't have to be perfect in order for you to care about them, right? Doing those things that I want to do because there is no right time. And waiting for the right time just keeps you stuck in the cycle. And so I think maybe something to think of for yourself, and I'd love to hear your guys' input on this. We've got people that are watching live right now, and those of you that are watching the recorded version, I would love to hear from you. If you really think about the fact that life is not unlimited, there is a time frame, and you don't know what that time frame is. So if you're in your 30s, 60 feels really far away. Let me tell you, when you're 55, 60 is not far away at all. When you're in your teens, 75 feels like it will never happen and you will never be 75. When you're 55, you're like, that's right around the corner. I'm coming. I'm getting close. And so I really want you to think about that. If you believed that you had 250 years, then what are you going to put off? And then flip it. If you recognize, man, I would put these things off, but now I'm really looking at the fact that my time here is precious. The other question is, what are you going to stop postponing? What is that thing that says that you've been saying, someday I'm going to blah, blah, blah? Let's hear it. What's your someday? What's your thing that is your someday I will, blah, blah, blah. Maybe part of why you're watching this video right now, maybe part of why I created this podcast right now, is to start filling in some of those blanks. Because I would say that your someday, that needs a date. The trip you've been wanting to go on, you need to book it. The person that maybe has been sitting on your heart that you want to release the energy that maybe got tied up in some way, maybe it's time. And maybe it's time to just make a commitment to yourself that you're not going to live in a place of pushing things away, but instead live because you have the life force energy now to actually do it. And when I talk about death being the great equalizer, it's also a great motivator, because, at least from my perspective, it reminds us that we are alive right here, right now. Like in this moment, we're alive. Life is happening now, not in 10 minutes, not in 5 years. It's happening right now. And every choice and every decision we make is either expanding our life force energy, or it's halting it or stopping it. And having spent a lot of time over my lifetime, but especially over the last couple of months, with somebody who, actually a couple of people who were on death's door, and walking them home back to the spirit world, I want to suggest that you do not want to wait until you are in the face of death to actually decide that you want to live. And that's what I'd like you to consider. So what's the thing you're going to stop putting off? Share that in the comments, guys. Let's hear it in the chat. And in the meantime, let's take a little commercial break, okay? Commercial break. I wanted to talk about my webinar, which is tomorrow, free webinar, called When Love Doesn't End, the Sacred Work of Grief. So if you've lost somebody, then of course I want to invite you, because we're going to be talking about grief differently than probably the way that you have thought about it or been trained into believing about it. It's not going to be something that you have to get to a certain point at a certain time, or that you need to get over, but it's also not something that you have to live in suffering around. So we'll talk about grief, the relationship that can continue, and the way that our loved ones in spirit can show up and show us signs, the suffering that we add to it, and how we can actually find our way back to the energy of love without the other distractions. And so that webinar is tomorrow, Wednesday, August 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It is live. It is online. It's completely free. So you can go and get registered. And I probably need to put this link in the chat, so you can come and join us. If you haven't gotten registered, go get registered. And if you know somebody that you feel like could benefit from this webinar, then absolutely share the link with them as well. Okay. All right. So I know that was a lot of conversation, and I'd love to just take a minute to invite you to put your hand on your heart for a moment. Just take a breath with me. And I just want you to think of somebody that you love. They can be here physically, and or they could be in spirit. Just tap in to feel the love. not the story, not the loss, not what happened. Just feel the love. That's what I want you to connect with. The love. Why? Because that's what matters. The love is what matters, whether that person is living or that person is no longer here. The love. So, friends, I hope that this podcast reminds you to take the action, take the step. It doesn't mean that you need to quit your job tomorrow, or that you need to sell everything and move to Mexico or whatever. But you could create more simplification in your life. Maybe you could take some downtime, or call a friend, or go outside to do your work, or plan that vacation, or do something for self-care, or maybe say no, or maybe say yes. Depends on which side of the fence you're on. Either way, tell somebody you love them. And maybe go look yourself in the eyes and tell yourself that. That might be a good idea too. All right, friends. So it is time for our heart to heart segment. Heart to heart segment is where those of you that are live with me in the live recording of the show gets an opportunity to ask any question you want about any topic you want. It does not need to be about the topic that this program is about. So I get questions that come in early in advance. And so I usually answer one or two of those. And then I will go to the chat, and I'm happy to answer those questions as well. So let's get started with our heart to heart with Sunny segment. Let's go. Heart to heart with Sunny, where your voice is heard. SOLtalk conversations, live in every word. Bring your questions, bring your truth. We're here to explore. Heart to heart with Sunny. Open up the door. All right. Heart to heart time, friends. I always love this segment. Again, your opportunity to ask any question you have. So those of you that are joining live, it is up to you. Now you are part of the show. So in that chat, go ahead and throw in your question. And let me read one of the ones that has come up. My dad and I never really said, I love you. He passed away unexpectedly, and now I can't stop thinking about all the things I never said. Do you think he knows how much I loved him? Such a good question. Yes, absolutely he does, because he can feel your vibration and your frequency. He also feels your regret and your pain at not expressing that. But over and above all of that, the greater thing, the great thing about having our loved ones in spirit is they recognize the whole picture, all the interactions, all the ways the web weaved. And what he recognizes is that he never said, I love you. And so as a child with a parent who never taught you to say, I love you, or that it never was just a thing you did. Doesn't even have to be that it was withheld. It just wasn't a thing. And sometimes you don't know that until you get older, that something was even missing, because you just don't know what you don't know. He sees that web now. And so, of course, you wouldn't say you loved him, because he never said it to you. He didn't teach you how to do that. And so the thing I guess I want to remind you all of is that love shows up in a lot of different ways, and it's not always words. Words are one form. It shows up in acts of service. It shows up in the time you spend with somebody. It shows up in buying gifts and presents for people. it shows up in positive feedback and kind words and saying I love you. And it shows up in hugs and holding a hand and patting somebody on the back, and like all of those ways it shows up. And the saying is just one way, it's just the verbal way. But we can't negate all of the other ways that I love you comes through as well. And so I would just remind you of that. And I hope that answers your question. All right, let me see. Okay, next question is, I love my family, but being around them can be exhausting. Oh, yeah. Come on, let's talk about that. How do I set boundaries without feeling like I'm being selfish? You probably won't be able to. That's the true answer. You probably will not be able to set boundaries without feeling selfish. You're going to have to do it and feel selfish. Now, to be clear, it doesn't mean you're selfish. It just means it's going to feel selfish based on the way that we were brought up, the way we are trained in our lives. It feels selfish to have boundaries. And that doesn't mean it is, it means that's how we were trained. And so when you have people around you that you love, and also that exhaust your energy, you have a right and a responsibility to manage and maintain your own frequency. And so you set boundaries even though it's uncomfortable, even though it feels selfish. And here's the thing, setting the boundaries isn't actually the hard part. That's the easy part. It's enforcing those boundaries. It's keeping that boundary up that is the hard part. And remember, a boundary isn't punishment. A boundary is just kind of a line of demarcation that says, we don't cross this line. That's not okay to cross this line. That's how I'd want you to look at it. And it's a good thing. You have the awareness around it, so it means it's necessary. Right, great question. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the chat real quick. Are my parents upset because I did not ask them more questions about what they were going through? Absolutely not, Sarah. Here's the thing, you guys, when we ascend, we don't have the emotion of upset. We don't, because we're not in the state, like they have instant manifestation in the spirit world. We're the ones that have this time space reality. And so they can see the greater, bigger picture. They understand our heart. They know where we were at, why we were doing what we were doing, how we were feeling. Like they can see all of that, the whole frequency. And so they don't have a judgment of what we did or didn't do, but they certainly do oftentimes see how we keep ourselves stuck because of our perception of what might have upset them and or what might have made them angry and or what we didn't forgive them for, or vice versa. And what they want us to do is free ourselves. They want us to live. Now, that doesn't mean not to learn. We want to learn. So we want to consistently grow and expand and heal and learn and grow and expand and heal and learn and grow and expand and heal and learn. Like that's evolution. That's how we reach enlightenment. That's how we ascend, let's say. But are they upset because you didn't ask more questions? How would you know what to ask? And how would you know why to ask the thing that you ask if you weren't taught, if you weren't trained? So we have to come back to a foundational belief that everybody is doing the best they can with what they have at the time that they have it. And that's not easy, because that, number one, that gives a lot of people a lot of grace, and some people don't want to give people grace. But in the big scheme of things, I actually really believe that's true, to the capacity that that person has. Now, you can look at them and say, well, they have eyes and ears and nose and mouth, and they have the capacity to say these words. Not if they weren't taught, not if they didn't have an example, not if they didn't have the knowledge or information to even ask the question. And sometimes just not even because they were in such pain themselves. You know, if you were in a lot of trauma with the loss of of the people around you, or as they were transitioning, then you may not have had the ability to ask some of the questions that you might have asked otherwise. So regret, waste of energy. And also, don't allow yourself to get into regret now, guys. Do the thing. Live your life. Live out loud. Live for them. Not do what they would do to live, but live for them. Like, okay, hey, jump on, let's go on a journey and let's see what we can create. Think about it that way. So I'm going to wrap up with just kind of a couple thoughts that came to me as I was prepping for this today. First one is, if I were going to narrow it down to one or two things that the spirit world, well, people that were human, the dead, that have taught me about this life and living, it's that we spend so much of our precious lives that don't last forever worrying about things that really don't deserve that much of our life force energy. Bottom line, we spend a lot of this lifetime worrying about things that don't deserve that much time and energy. So be mindful of how you choose your energy and what you put attention on. So love, express, share it, say it, express it, forgive when you can, create boundaries if necessary. Don't wait for other people to come to you or to give permission. And then live full out, whatever that is. Go to the place, make the call, do the trip, take the pictures. Don't worry about how you're looking. Create the memories. Get into joy. Be present in the day-to-day ordinary memories, and knowing that death is absolutely a part of life that will happen. And that doesn't mean it has to be scary. Life can be even more precious when you recognize that we don't have 250 years. And what we know is that tomorrow isn't promised to any of us. And for me, that's a reminder to live right here, right now, and to live life full out, because the ordinary moments, from my perception, become the extraordinary ones in however that looks for you. So thank you, my friends, for joining me for today's Soul Talk. I'd love to hear one thing that stood out to you, one aha, one insight, one awareness, one little thing that you're like, oh, hadn't thought of it that way. So if you have a takeaway at all, throw that in the chat, throw that in the comments if you're watching, if you're not watching live. And thanks for spending this time with me. I am here every Tuesday talking about where soul meets real life and how we can get into alignment and really expand this human experience into joy and happiness and fun and play and peace. And I appreciate your presence here. And just a reminder that when we allow our divinity to guide our humanity, we expand our presence and we illuminate the world, and we need everyone's light. And so if you enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to like and subscribe and share this episode. Comment, that always helps us. It helps the algorithms let people know that, hey, this was a great episode. So if you'd share one little takeaway, that would help out. And certainly come and join us next week. All right. So I'm going to end with the video of Soul Talk. I know some of you have watched it. I love this song. So we created the song as um, uh, a theme song for the podcast, and we have a video that goes along with it. So I'm going to bring that in so you guys can watch it. And in the meantime, as you are sharing your takeaways, thank you, Kate, for sharing that simplification. I love that. Just got here, but I like the part about not worrying. I need to worry less and let things happen. Yes, for sure. So we're going to go to the video. I'm going to play that for you. And feel free to use that chat to comment in the meantime. And remember, if you're joining me and you're not live, and we're not live any longer, I answer, I give feedback, and I comment on all of the comments that come in. So feel free to share, and I will look forward to seeing you there. All right, guys, let's go to this theme song.
"25 years on this road, rewriting every story I'm told. Love from the inside out, that's what it's all about. So self-service, hear the call. Rising to the truth of it all. This is Soul Talk, feel the light where your soul ignites. No more hiding who you are. Time to shine, you're born a star. Inspire, light the way, impact your inner fire, that's a fact. This is Soul Talk, time to rise. Step into your power, no disguise. Walk through shadows, found my voice. Now I'm here to make a choice. Real and raw, that's how we heal. Heart-based living, this is real. Soul self-service, feel the flame. Step into your power, stake your claim. This is Soul Talk, feel the light where your soul ignites. No more hiding who you are. Time to shine, you're born to star. Inspire, light the way, impact your inner fire, that's a fact. This is Soul Talk, time to rise. Step into your power, no disguise. Light leaders rise up strong. This is where you belong. From the inside, watch it grow. Let your brilliance overflow. World needs your light right now. Plant your roots and claim your ground. This is Soul Talk, we rise as one. Soul alignment's just begun. No more playing small or safe. Step into your sacred space. Inspire, light the way, impact. Live in truth, that's where it's at. This is Soul Talk, here we stand. Light leaders hand in hand. Light leaders hand in hand. Soul self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk, shine today.
All right, friends. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Have a beautiful